Hi, good afternoon, evening, everyone. I am so excited to be here with you all today. It has been a power-packed day with so much great information from great speakers. And so first, let me just thank Jen Lowry and the Entitled Writing Warriors for Jesus conference team for having both myself, my name is Lydia Elle, and if you were here this morning for the party, you got to see my daughter, my chocolate drop, London Lowry. So we are just so excited to be a part of this and to just have a conversation with you about what I think is a very important topic, given the recent events in history and just given what it is that we are as the body of Christ. So before we get started, if you would allow me, I would like to just say a quick word of prayer because I need it. I can never get too much. Heavenly Father, I want to ask you now that the words of my mouth and all the meditations of my heart will be acceptable in your sight. You are always my strength, always my Redeemer. Amen. Okay, so we are talking about the importance of the Black story, the importance of the Black story. When I think about that particular sentence, I know that there may be a lot that kind of mulls around in our minds about it. And so I wanted to start this discussion today. Hey, Margaret. Hey, Tish. I wanted to start this discussion today about the fact that when I was a kid, so I grew up in London, England, hence why my daughter's name is London. And when I moved to from London, I started watching cartoons, right? I really got into cartoons. I was into cartoons a little bit before, but I really started watching cartoons. And one cartoon that I watched in particular was Gem. Oh, you're most welcome, was Gem. So it was Gem and I think they were called the holograms. And it was these girls who they would sing and they would solve all of these problems and they were super cool. And I wanted to be like them. It was really important that I get all of the Gem paraphernalia. I wanted all of the Gem logos. Like I just wanted to be a part of this group. And when I looked at this group, I saw that there were, I think it was 5 girls, and I saw girls of different colors. One was purple. There were a few who were, I believe that they would be white, I guess you could say. And then there was one who was a chocolate color like myself, African American. So after that, I believe that was when we really had the upswing for Superman and Supergirl. And so Superman, you know, it was Clark Kent, and then he turns into Superman, and he could like move mountains and stop trains and you know, lift boulders, and he was always saving the day. And I was like, oh man, that's phenomenal. And then y'all, then Supergirl came out, and Supergirl was incredible. I wanted to be like her. I wanted to go and do all of the things that she was doing. All of them. This topic is called the importance of the Black story. So when I look in my Bible and I look at Luke, the 22nd chapter and the 32nd verse, it says, "But I have prayed for thee, that thy faith fail not. And when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren." Now, you might be wondering why it is that we spoke about cartoons to begin with, that this is called the importance of the Black story. And I just read you that verse in Luke. Well, the truth of the matter is the reason why I picked this topic and why we're talking about it is not because I'm going to encourage you to tell Black stories. Yes, I use air quotes about that because there are a lot of stories right now that we could bring up when it comes to George Floyd, or when it comes to Breonna Taylor, when it comes to Elijah McClain, when it comes to Sandra Bland. There are so many stories that I am sure you are well aware of, and all of the things that are going on in our current social climate. But The thing that is most important about a Black story is that we understand that it is just as important to tell a story that has Black people as it does any other story. When I looked at the story of Jem and the holograms, like I said, it was a group of 5 girls, and only one of them looked like me. When I think about Supergirl and some of the superheroes that came out of a lot of these stories in Hollywood and otherwise, they didn't look like me. And so, as it is that I was aspiring and I wanted to dream and I wanted to dare and I wanted to imagine, I had to do a little more in that area because the stories that were being told didn't always include someone who looks like me. Now, why is a story so important? Why is it that we come together and we write these things? And why is it that we share stories? Why is it that we give children stories? It is because we want to prompt their imagination. It is because we want to encourage them to dare, and we want to give them the opportunity to see where they could go. But the only way that you can see where you can go is if you can see what it looks like. Otherwise, it's going to be really, really difficult. You'll have to put a little more effort into it so that you can imagine yourself in that space. Yes, I wanted to be just like Supergirl, but all of the Supergirls that came out and a lot of the superheroes didn't look like me. And so I had to really force the process of giving myself the opportunity to be a part of that community. So when we talk about the Black story, it isn't that I just want stories to be told of what is normal and considered common Black culture. The reason why it is important that stories are told and that they include lead people who look like me is so that my daughter knows that she too can dare and that she too can dream and that she can be a Supergirl if that's what she wants to be. And she can be a part of Jem and the holograms if that is so what she desires. In 2008, when Barack Obama became president, he stood in what was one of the largest presidential inaugurations in history, if not the biggest. And the reason why it was so impactful for so many people, especially those who look like me, is because they finally realized that they could look like that. In that position, having that opportunity, having that access, having the ability to dare to dream to the highest heights of civic duty in this land. The importance of a Black story is not just telling stories about quote unquote Black people. It is that we who have been given the auspicious opportunity to share stories realize that they too can be led with whomever we choose to have them with. That when we consider the characters that we put in place, that we include people of all colors, that the doctor can look like one person and that the teacher can look like another, that we can have people who are presidential and that there can be people who are in all walks of life that are a part of our stories. For when it is that we normalize opportunity in our stories, I truly, truly, truly believe that we will normalize opportunity in our society. I believe that we have been given something that is so precious, that is so honorable, and that is a true responsibility. My daughter herself has a book called London and the 1,000 Books. And she wrote this book about a little girl reading that, yes, it encourages all children to read, but it specifically speaks to little girls to read, for little girls to read, and for little girls who look like my daughter to realize that they too, if they decide, good luck to the parents, to read 1,000 books that they can. And so I want to encourage us all as a writing community to realize that it is not about telling a story of a Black person or a brown person. It is not about telling a story of what they are going through. Keep in mind, there are different experiences that they do have to endure every single day. But this is not a conversation about privilege or differences. This is about understanding that we hold the beacons and the torches for the imagination for the entire world. And as it is that we write to the tune of dreams, that we include all types of dreamers, that we include all types of people who look both like you and like me to be a part of that imagination story. So I just wanted to share this little bit with you. And before I open it up for some questions, the reason why stories are so important is because of this verse. It comes from my daughter's favorite book in the Bible, Revelations chapter 12 and verse 11. And it says, "And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony." The reason why stories are so important is because we know that we have all been given the blood of the Lamb and that we are saved because of that blood. But a key part to overcoming is having a testimony. Imagine how much stronger these testimonies will be when it is written about all types of people, overcoming all types of challenges, becoming all types of leaders and all types of initiators, all types of innovators, so that they too can have a testimony and tell those who are coming behind us. The importance of the Black story is that the story is important and it needs to include all types of people, including Black ones. So I really hope that this little thought has definitely given you some perspective on what I think can make a change and a difference in this world. And I want to answer and look at a few comments and questions because I just love doing that. So let's see what we got. I see, as writers, we shouldn't be afraid to create worlds that, yes, Margaret, I totally agree with that. I too am a writer. My first book was called And So I Prayed. And it was in regards to dealing with triumph, but giving myself compassion while I am going through that process. And so that was something that I wrote because a lot of the stories that I had seen about challenges always spoke from the perspective of the mountaintop. And I wanted to talk about how this thing felt in the valley and that God is still with us in those lows, oftentimes to provide so many lessons to strengthen us for the mountaintop. So that was my story. So let's see. They overcame. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. I show that our Haitian life stories can be painful, yes, but also brilliant, interesting, quirky, and fun. Yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. And I know that Jen has a book where she writes. I'm actually going to be getting that from my daughter, Jen. So thank you so much for sharing that story. I love the cover of her latest book that just came out. I'm going to show you guys actually, just because I think she is amazing for putting that together. We need diversity in our books. What does diversity look like? Sweet Potato Jones. Wait, no, I need to show the picture. I definitely need to show the picture so that they can see just how incredible it is. The birthday of the book. Oh, sorry guys, which way do I go? The birthday of the book came out just a couple days ago. But look at that. Sweet Potato Jones, I can't wait to read it. I can't wait to read it. But we truly are, I believe that we are the gatekeepers when it comes to stories, because that is the key to imagination and dreams. And so we need to be very intentional about creating stories that include all types of people in all types of roles. Okay, here's a question. How do we encourage more reading in the Black community? That's a great question. I think it goes to probably the heart of what it is that we're speaking about today, which is, you guys, it is so hot in here. California is up to like 110 degrees. So forgive my afro if it decides to do that. So encouraging the Black community to read we need to have more stories where they see Black people reading. If our children see stories of Black people reading in a way that is fun and engaging, then they're going to want to emulate that, right? So one of the reasons why my daughter's first book was called London and the 1000 Books is because I was constantly getting questions from parents that said, how do I get my child to read? They asked specifically to the extent that London read, but how do I get my child to read? Well, if London is talking about reading and how much fun it is, and she wrote a book about a girl who is Black, who is reading and all of the things that come out of it, then when that little girl or boy reads that story, they too will capture, they too will want to emulate and copy what it is that they are seeing in the story. Let me show you guys a few pages from it. That's a great question, though. So if you look, see in almost all of the pictures in her book, she's reading. So imagine we have a 5 or 6 year old, right? There's just a lot of books. This one especially I love because it's encouraging kids like, hey, what can you do in the car? So if they see these stories and their imagination is going as the mom or dad is reading with them, they will be inclined to pick up a book about whatever their topic is and read it themselves. At least that's how it had worked out for me. Thank you for that question. The other thing that I need to have a blind character in some of my books because that absolutely. There are, London read about a few blind characters, actual stories, biographies of people. She read about Ray Charles. She read about, I believe it's Helen Keller. And so that opened her up to have more compassion and such. We actually have a good friend who has an autistic son. And so London, in her reading, found a book about autism. I think it was written by Holly Pete. And so when she found the book, she was like, oh, Mom, I understand a little bit more about how to relate to him. And then she made sure that we got the book to give to her friend who has autism. And so, of course, he was excited to get a book because he got to see himself in the story. So yeah, that is really, really important. Please share. Please share when you get it up. We can think of diversity in themes of characters, settings, not just race and gender. Yes. So like I said in the beginning, I am from London, England. So I have read lots of stories that have that setting. My family is from Jamaica. So I've read and made sure London has read lots of stories in that setting as well. And I make sure that when we are going on a trip internationally, that she reads stories about that place that we're going, so that she really gets to let her imagination fly in that particular area. It does something more to, when we think of stories and people, oftentimes we are looking at this theoretical group, this thing that is apart from us. But, as Christians in the body of Christ, we are all one. We are all supposed to be together and come together. So when I read a story about someone, they're no longer an us and them. It's now a we, right? You cannot defend and uphold and encourage anybody who is not a part of your life. It is much easier, let's say, to defend somebody who is Black if you have a Black friend, because you realize it is not about a us and them, but it is about your brother or your sister. And so being that inclusive in all types, right? If you got people from different places, if you have different foods, if you have different games, those types of things now make it personal. And if there is anything that we saw that Jesus did when he was here on earth, is he made sure he had personal connections with people. The book I've finished rewriting doesn't have a blind character, but the one I'll be drafting during NaNoWriMo will have a blind character. Yes, that is awesome. Books help us to build compassion. Yes, for sure. I want to hear more about that character. The other thing that I think that we need to do as the gatekeepers of imagination, okay, I'll get to that question, is to encourage courage in terms of, yes, we can write about what is currently happening, but what if we wrote about things that were so big? Like, I would love to see a book one day that doesn't include some type of racial divide, right? Can you put that question back up for me? I'm sorry. I don't, yeah. We need to push the boundaries on this imagination so far. You know, my daughter comes up with different things that she wants to invent, and I don't tell her, kind of like Elon Musk and Tesla, I don't tell her that she can't do it. Now, I don't know how she's going to do it, but that's how I felt when she decided she was going to read 1,000 books. And now we have a book about it. So I say go big. All right, what about writing Black people in fantasy? How do you make Black characters to connect with people who look like us? So that's a great question. And there is a series that just came out on Netflix. Well, I can't say just. I think early in the quarantine it came out. And it was about a little boy who was a superhero. And he was Black, both of his mom and dad. And it was extremely relatable. I cannot remember the name of the series. But the thing with fantasy and those types of things is that it is, I don't want to say out of reach, but those who enjoy that understand that it is slightly above reality, right? So it isn't that it has to connect with just a Black family. If we think about it, that it would have to connect with any family, then it's a lot easier to understand those things that may be removed. But you can still write a story about a Black family, and then the little boy just happens to be a superhero. And that is what Raising Dion, that is the name of the series. Definitely go and check that out. I think that will give you a lot of groundwork or foundation on how well that script was written. I believe it was produced by Michael B. Jordan. So definitely go and check that out. I wish they would come out with a second season, but filming and such is difficult right now. I don't want to hold it up too long, Jen, but if there is one more question, we can take it. And then I will close really quickly. No, I love you guys too. Thank you so much for having me. I'm pretty sure my hair is going to be a full-on afro, but I promise you I did curl it. I promise. I promise. Okay, well, if there isn't any more questions, let me just say this. In lieu of all of the events that are going on, I know that it creates a very real dissonance, both on the external and probably on the internal. We're having conversations about topics that we have since or previously been able to just remain silent on, so that we do not present an environment of discomfort. But silence and discomfort is what has allowed the mold called racism to grow. And so I would encourage all of us that whatever space that we are in, that we make sure that we tell stories of the world as it should look. No matter what it is that we see currently, let us not be silent in our storytelling, so that we discredit the experiences that have happened. So what do I mean by that? When I had to explain certain things to my daughter, she was extremely upset. I have never had to have such a difficult conversation as I did that day. But I made sure that when it is that I told her what was happening, that I left a very, very strong ember, a flame of hope in her heart that let her know that there is a world that is not going to have the conflicts that we are dealing with, and that she is allowed to continue to dream and to continue to write and to continue to imagine in a space despite what she thinks may encroach on her opportunities. I do the best that I can to give her opportunities. But I never want her to write or to tell stories in a space of fear. Should it be that you have questions about certain contexts and such, I suggest that you reach out to your African American or whomever you are writing about. Really talk to them, again, for relationship, to find out how to make it most authentic, most relatable, and it tells the story in the purest voice possible. But if there is discomfort, my encouragement to you is don't avoid it. We cannot be silent anymore because we are unsure of how to tell these stories. Make sure you commit to telling stories about the world as we want to see it. And it's going to take connection and relationship to do so. I would love to thank Jenny and team again for having both myself and my daughter London this morning. It's truly been an honor to be here with you. So my name is Lydia Elle. I am a truth seeker, honest speaker, sharing the lessons of my journey to help you with your own. I truly appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in today, and I look forward to reading your stories. Thank you guys. God bless.